Remember all those WNBA announcers claiming Angel Reese was better than Caitlin Clark? 8 minutes of play, 4 points, 3 turnovers. The numbers don't lie, and last night's performance in the Unrivaled League might be the most revealing evidence yet of the growing gap between social media hype and actual on-court ability. But here's the most telling stat. When Reese was taken out of the game, her team started winning. Well, Angel Reese, yesterday, for her Unrivaled team, the Rose Basketball Club. Who picked these names in this league? God dog, they're awful. She had her worst, what can be described as her worst professional. Let's start with the opening minutes of the game, where the issues became immediately apparent. Angel Reese, who's been heavily promoted as a future WNBA star, showed signs of struggle from her very first possession. The initial double dribble violation wasn't just a simple mistake, it was a fundamental error that highlighted deeper concerns about skill development and game preparation. What makes this particularly concerning is the context of the Unrivaled League. This isn't the WNBA with its complex defensive schemes and veteran players. This is a 3-on-3 format specifically designed to showcase individual skills and create favorable matchups for offensive players. In theory, this should be an environment where a player of Reese's purported caliber thrives. Instead, we witnessed something entirely different. The fast break sequence that occurred early in the game deserves special attention. Picture this: a professional basketball player, completely alone on a fast break, with no defenders within reach, choosing to pass up an open layup. This wasn't just a bad decision, it was a moment that revealed a lack of confidence in even the most basic basketball skills. When you're playing at this level, turning down uncontested layups isn't just unusual, it's unprecedented. Speaking of unprecedented, let's talk about the foul situation. 4 fouls in 8 minutes of play. That's not just poor game management, it's a complete breakdown of basketball fundamentals. In a 3-on-3 format where defensive responsibilities are actually simpler than in a traditional 5-on-5 game, Reese managed to commit a foul every 2 minutes. To put this in perspective, even rookie players in the WNBA typically manage to stay on the floor longer without fouling out. The shooting statistics tell an equally concerning story. 2 made field goals on 6 attempts might not sound catastrophic at first glance, but the quality of these shots is what raises red flags. We're not talking about heavily contested attempts or end-of-shot clock situations. These were largely open looks, created by teammates, in a format designed to generate favorable scoring opportunities. What's particularly revealing is how the Rose Basketball Club performed when Reese was off the court. Lexi Hull, stepping in with far less fanfare and media attention, put up an efficient 19 points on 8 of 11 shooting. This wasn't just a good performance, it was a demonstration of what fundamentally sound basketball looks like. Hull wasn't trying to create viral moments or social media highlights, she was simply playing solid, fundamental basketball. Double straight became a me show. The team disintegrated, right? Other talented players on that team got pushed aside. And it was done. One could argue their coach got fired over it. Well, it brings us to a crucial point about the current state of women's basketball. The gap between social media popularity and actual on-court ability has never been more evident. While Reese has undeniably built a strong following and personal brand, last night's performance raises serious questions about the development of her fundamental basketball skills. Looking at the defensive end, the issues become even more apparent. In a 3-on-3 format, defensive responsibilities are more straightforward than in traditional basketball. There's more space, fewer players to keep track of, and simpler rotations to manage. Yet Reese struggled to maintain proper defensive position without fouling. This isn't just about one bad game. It's about basic basketball principles that should be second nature at this level. The contrast with players like Caitlin Clark becomes impossible to ignore. While Clark continues to demonstrate a complete offensive arsenal, shooting from range, creating for teammates, managing the game, Reese's limitations are becoming increasingly exposed. The WNBA announcers who previously claimed Reese was superior to Clark are now facing a serious credibility issue. One particularly telling moment came in the second quarter, when Reese attempted to create her own shot off the dribble. The sequence showed all the limitations in her game. a high dribble that made her vulnerable to defenders, poor footwork that limited her ability to create separation, and ultimately a forced shot that had little chance of going in. These aren't just isolated incidents, they're fundamental issues that will need to be addressed for any hope of WNBA success. The team's offensive flow, or a lack thereof, when Reese was on the court is another critical point of analysis. Basketball at its highest level is about creating advantages and maintaining proper spacing. When Reese was in the game, the team's spacing suffered noticeably. Without a reliable jump shot to keep defenders honest, she often clogged driving lanes for her teammates, making the offense more predictable and easier to defend. Even more concerning were the moments when Reese had opportunities to make simple basketball plays. There were several instances where a basic pass to an open teammate would have created a better scoring opportunity, but instead, we saw forced attempts to create individual highlights. This isn't just about basketball skills, it's about basketball IQ and understanding how to make your teammates better. The reaction from basketball observers has been telling. As one viewer noted while watching with their father, the lack of fundamental skills was immediately apparent even to casual observers. Another fan pointed out how the team's improved performance without Reese wasn't just coincidence. It was a direct result of returning to basic, team-oriented basketball. The statistics from when Reese was off the court tell an important story. The team's assist numbers went up, the ball movement improved, and most importantly, the scoring became more efficient. This isn't about individual talent, it's about playing winning basketball. When the focus shifted from individual highlights to team success, the results spoke for themselves. Looking at the physical aspects of her game, there are concerns about conditioning as well. In just 8 minutes of play, there were visible signs of fatigue. In a 3-on-3 format where rest opportunities are more frequent than in traditional basketball, this raises questions about preparation and professional approach to the game. The post play, traditionally considered a strength of Reese's game, showed concerning limitations. In several attempts to establish position in the post, she struggled with basic footwork and balance. Against experienced defenders, these fundamental issues become even more problematic. Professional basketball requires a level of technical proficiency that can't be masked by athleticism alone. When we examine the transition game, more issues become apparent. There were multiple possessions where Reese's inability to handle the ball in the open court led to turnovers or broken plays. In modern basketball, especially at the professional level, positional versatility is crucial. Big players need to be able to handle the ball and make decisions in transition. The impact on her teammates was visible throughout the game. There were moments of visible frustration when passes were fumbled or defensive rotations were missed. Basketball is ultimately a team game, and individual limitations can have a ripple effect on the entire unit's performance. What makes this performance particularly significant is its timing. As the WNBA draft approaches and teams evaluate potential prospects, games like this become crucial data points. This isn't about one bad performance. It's about fundamental skills and basketball intelligence that will translate to the next level. The comparison to other players in similar positions becomes inevitable. When you look at the technical proficiency of top prospects, the gap in fundamental skills becomes glaring. It's not just about natural talent or athleticism, it's about the development of basketball skills that can hold up against professional competition. If you're finding this analysis helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more detailed basketball breakdowns. For those suggesting this is too harsh an assessment, it's important to understand the context. Professional basketball requires a certain level of fundamental skill that can't be developed overnight. The habits and limitations we're seeing now are the result of years of development, or lack thereof. The response from the basketball community has been particularly interesting. Coaches and scouts watching these games are seeing the same issues. Fundamental basketball skills that need significant development before they can translate to the professional level. This isn't about potential anymore. It's about current ability and readiness for professional basketball. The implications of last night's performance extend far beyond just one game or one player. What we're seeing is a fundamental shift in how women's basketball talent is evaluated and marketed. When Lexi Hull stepped in and efficiently scored 19 points on 8 of 11 shooting, it wasn't just a good individual performance. It was a statement about the importance of fundamental basketball skills over social media following. This situation perfectly illustrates a growing disconnect in women's basketball. While social media metrics and viral moments have become increasingly important for player marketability, the actual on-court product remains rooted in fundamental basketball skills. The Unrivaled League, designed to showcase individual talent, has inadvertently exposed this gap between perception and reality. Let's look at specific sequences from last night's game that highlight these issues. There was a moment in the second quarter where Reese received the ball in the post position, a situation that should be advantageous for a player of her size and alleged skill set. Instead of utilizing basic post moves, a drop step, a hook shot, or even a simple power move, we saw hesitation and ultimately a forced pass that led to a turnover. These aren't just isolated mistakes, they're symptoms of more fundamental issues in skill development. The comparison with Caitlin Clark becomes unavoidable here. Clark's recent performances have showcased not just scoring ability, but a complete understanding of basketball fundamentals. Her court vision, passing ability, and most importantly, her grasp of when to create for herself versus when to involve teammates, stand in stark contrast to what we witnessed last night. The defensive end of the floor tells an equally concerning story. In 8 minutes of play, we saw multiple instances of basic defensive principles being violated. Proper defensive stance, maintaining position without fouling, understanding help defense concepts. These are fundamental skills that should be second nature at this level. Instead, we saw 4 fouls in 8 minutes, effectively removing any possibility of making a positive impact on the game. The impact on team dynamics was particularly revealing. When Reese was on the floor, the team's offensive spacing suffered noticeably. Without a reliable outside shot to keep defenders honest, and with a tendency to occupy the same areas of the floor as teammates, the offense became stagnant and predictable. This isn't just about individual skills, it's about understanding how to play within a team concept. What makes this situation more concerning is the response from certain WNBA analysts who had previously hyped Reese as a transformative talent. Their credibility is now being questioned, as viewers who watched last night's game with fresh eyes, like the father mentioned in our comments, could immediately see the fundamental flaws in her game. This raises important questions about the role of media in evaluating and promoting talent. The statistics from when Reese was off the court tell an important story. The team's assist numbers increased, shot selection improved, and most tellingly, the overall flow of the game became more fluid. This isn't coincidence, it's what happens when basketball fundamentals take precedence over individual highlights. Looking at the physical aspects of the game, there are serious concerns about conditioning and preparation. In a 3-on-3 format, which typically allows for more rest than traditional 5-on-5 basketball, showing signs of fatigue after just 8 minutes raises red flags about professional approach to the game. This becomes even more crucial when considering the demands of a full WNBA season. The post play, which should be a strength given her size and athleticism, showed concerning technical limitations. Basic footwork was often missing, leading to off-balance shots and offensive fouls. Against professional defenders who understand positioning and leverage, these fundamental flaws become even more exposed. The transition game, crucial in modern basketball, revealed additional concerns. Multiple possessions showed an inability to handle the ball effectively in the open court. In today's professional game, positional versatility is essential. Every player, regardless of size, needs to be able to contribute to the transition game without becoming a liability. This brings us to a crucial discussion about player development in women's basketball. The path from college to professional basketball requires more than just athletic ability or social media following. It demands a comprehensive understanding of basketball fundamentals, team concepts, and professional approach to the game. The response from the basketball community has been particularly telling. Coaches and scouts watching these games are seeing consistent patterns, fundamental basketball skills that need significant development before they can translate to the professional level. This isn't about potential anymore, it's about current ability and readiness for professional basketball. What makes the situation more complex is the role of social media in modern basketball. While building a personal brand is important, it can't come at the expense of developing fundamental basketball skills. Last night's performance showed what happens when that balance gets skewed too far in one direction. The implications for future WNBA prospects are significant. Teams evaluating talent will likely place renewed emphasis on fundamental skills and basketball IQ rather than social media following or viral moments. The gap between media hype and actual on-court ability has never been more apparent. Looking at specific game situations, the decision-making process raised serious concerns. There were multiple instances where simple basketball plays were available. Open teammates, basic passes, fundamental moves, but instead, we saw forced attempts to create highlight moments. This isn't just about basketball skills. It's about basketball intelligence and understanding how to make your teammates better. The defensive limitations become even more glaring when considering professional basketball requirements. WNBA teams need players who can defend multiple positions, understand complex defensive schemes, and make proper rotations without fouling. Last night's performance showed significant gaps in all these areas. The comparison with other players in similar positions becomes inevitable. When you look at the technical proficiency of top prospects, particularly someone like Caitlin Clark, the gap in fundamental skills becomes obvious. It's not just about natural talent or athleticism, it's about the development of basketball skills that can hold up against professional competition. The reaction from basketball observers has been particularly interesting. As one viewer noted while watching with their father, the lack of fundamental skills was immediately apparent, even to casual observers. Another fan pointed out how the team's improved performance without Reese wasn't just coincidence. It was a direct result of returning to basic, team-oriented basketball. This raises important questions about the future of women's basketball. While social media presence and marketability are important aspects of modern sports, the fundamental product remains basketball. Success at the professional level requires a deep understanding of the game, strong fundamental skills, and the ability to contribute to team success. The implications for coaching and player development are significant. There needs to be a renewed emphasis on fundamental skill development, even for players who show early promise or gain early attention. The basics of basketball, proper shooting form, defensive fundamentals, court awareness, cannot be overlooked in favor of developing a social media presence. Perhaps most telling was the team's performance in critical moments. When the game was on the line, it was players with strong fundamental skills who made the difference. Lexi Hull's efficient scoring and smart decision-making proved more valuable than attempts at highlight reel plays. The path forward requires honest evaluation and focused development. While natural talent and athleticism are important, they must be complemented by strong fundamental skills and basketball intelligence.